his whole life revolved around football and being in that office and looking at film. He was not out and about, and he wasn't looking for me. I don't think neither one of us had any animosity toward each other. Our paths just weren't crossing very much because of where I was and where he was and what he was doing, and But I really would say to this day I don't really know him very well, and I feel bad about that. And but I did try to get to know him a little better the last few weeks.
How did he take the news today, and what did you guys talk about?
Well, we talked a little bit. I just went over my thought process, and he asked if his contract was being terminated, and I said yes, it was. And he was very cordial, and I was cordial, and that was it. It was probably 5 minutes, and I had blocked off a half hour to talk as long as he wanted to. And but you know, I think he probably felt there wasn't much to talk about, and I felt the same way to some degree.
Tom, have you ever had to fire anybody before? I mean, through all your years as a coach?
I think in 25 years I fired 2 assistants, so I'm not a big firing guy.
Tom, what friends and old coaches did you consult in this past couple weeks as you made this decision? You mentioned Coach McCartney. Were there others?
Oh, I didn't consult Bill about this. I didn't talk to. No, he just was here to speak at a People's City Mission banquet, and I was there, and we sat and talked, and he just mentioned the identity thing, so I didn't do a lot of that. I talked to Turner Gill maybe once a week, and I have for the last 2 years. You know, I talked to Frank Solich quite a bit, and but at no point did I discuss this job with him. I told him up front, you know, we're just talking about your team, how you're doing, how you're feeling, and but that's just what we do, you know. So other than that, I really didn't talk to many people. Talked to Marvin Sanders a little bit. He's out of coaching. Talked to Barney Cotton. Talked to Craig Bowl one time. But that's about the extent of my conversations. I didn't call other coaches and say, what should I do?
Tom, have you determined at this point who will get interviews?
No, I really haven't, because I told everybody we would wait until this thing was over. I have talked to a guy who was going to call a few people and see if they might be interested in Nebraska if something happened, and I don't even know for sure what his response has been. You know, I told him I don't want to hear anybody's name until after I've talked to Coach Callahan and until I've made a final decision. And so I've called him here in the last half hour and said, you know, whoever wants to talk to me, then I'll be glad to visit with them.
How important is it for the next coach to understand the history, tradition, and what Nebraska football means to the people of this state?
Well, I think it's pretty important that they have a good grasp of it. And I think most people in football, at least in a peripheral sense, have some idea of what it's like. But, you know, one of the assistants said today, you know, said, I had no idea what I was getting into in terms of the intensity of the thing. And one thing I might mention to you is that, you know, I think the players feel it too. You know, they feel the level of scrutiny and the level of expectation. And a couple of assistants said today, you know, after that USC game, it got really hard for the players because the expectations were so high, and the beating they took was fairly thorough. And I think that to some degree, some of them didn't recover from that emotionally, psychologically. I don't know. And I'm not trying to blame you guys. I'm just saying that, you know, the interest of the state is so heavy that it sometimes is difficult to deal with. When you feel like you've really disappointed and let people down, I think it becomes difficult.
How big of a factor will it be for a candidate to have Nebraska ties?
Well, there's only so many out there that do. I think it would be nice if it happened, but that's not going to be exclusive. We're not going to make that a prerequisite. So just try to find the best candidate that we can. and it takes two people to agree. And so, I may talk to some people that have Nebraska ties, and they may not want any part of it.
You mentioned Marvin and Barney. Do you have an influence on some of those guys like that being on the staff or being approached about jobs?
The next head coach will make those decisions. Now, if I know 5 or 6 guys that I think know something about Nebraska that I think are good coaches, I'll mention their names, but he'd have to make the final decision. I would not tell him, your job here depends on hiring this guy and this guy.
Tom, who are you working with also? You said you have somebody contacting. Who is that?
I'm not going to say who that is.
Or are they officially being hired by you?
Yeah, we will pay them a retainer of some type. It's not a real high price deal, but yeah, just somebody to coordinate
So
it.
the search firm or like a third party type?
I'm not going to say anything more than that. Just that, yeah, I put the word out that, if I decide to make a move here, I'd like to at least get the ball rolling to know who to talk to. We haven't talked to anybody yet.
Tom, the last coaching search took over a month. What is your timetable, and how soon would you like to name a head coach?
Well, you'd like to do it as soon as you can, but there is no timetable because I can't predict when that person might say okay. So we'll just do the best we can. But recruiting's important, so we'll move on as quickly as we can. Maybe one more question, and I'm going to get out of here. Jimmy Walden said this. He said, it's the last 20 minutes of the press conference that get you in trouble. And so...
Nebraska fired a coach 4 years ago after going 9-3, and now 4 years later, the school's fired another coach. Will it be difficult to, talk a coach into coming to Nebraska? I guess, how do you view that?
Well, it could be. Might have been harder after 9-3 than after 5-7. I think most people in the coaching profession understand. A place like this, a couple losing seasons, and it's going to get tough. But certainly wasn't something I wanted to do. But I thought it was in the best interest of the program. Maybe it wasn't. I think it was. And so you don't have a crystal ball. You just do the best you can with what information you have. And but there was certainly no personal animosity toward anybody, and a good deal of respect.
Coach, if I could ask one more on the assistant coach.
This is the last one. Okay, all right.
Coach Cosgrove took a great deal of criticism during the season. Is he at his own whim to go, or is his future dependent upon the next coach?
Well, I talked to Kevin this morning, and he said he just wanted to spend some time with his family. And as far as I'm concerned, any one of those guys that the next coach wants to hire is certainly, as far as I'm concerned, available. Now, whether Kevin would want to stay or not, I couldn't tell you. Some of them said they wanted to stay, and I think Kevin, caught a lot of the brunt of the thing, and it wasn't just one guy's fault, or two guys. And I felt really bad for his family and Kevin, but I felt bad for all of them. And so I think he's ready to move on. But I really appreciate his attitude and his effort. He's been very professional, and he's really well liked by the players. And I think he did the best he could. I think there was a certain amount of confidence on the defense that was shattered at some point, and it couldn't seem to get it back. And when things started going bad in a game, it just seemed like it started to snowball.
Do you have a message to the fans or the state about how you want us to act and be patient with this? Or
Well, I can't tell you guys how to act. You know that. So, yeah, we hope that the next coach will be given some time, and I hope very much. And the only thing I will say is we're going to really work hard in the state, find out every player that we think can play. And I think these guys did a pretty good job of recruiting, but a lot of the focus was national. And if we have lost some high school coaches along the way, we'll try to get them back, because where you start is in Nebraska. Really, that's got to be your base, and then you get the best players you can other places. So we will work at that. So anyway, I've probably said too much already, but thank you for being here, and we'll stay in touch with you down the road and Thanks for coming.